Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am Jam, and this is a show where we hang out, we talk about games, things that inspire us, things that are beautiful and make us excited to sit around a table with friends, read a book, go out and do something creative and put it out into the world. Today we're doing a recap. I was at Chaosium Con this weekend and it was amazing. So I figured I would give you an insight into what goes on at Chaosium Con. So maybe next year you'll be able to join. But first of all, good morning to Padre and Mark and to Tink and to Oz. Good to see you, buddy. So, Chaosium Con is a really small con in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it is hosted by Chaosium. And when I say it's a small con, I mean we're talking like 400 to 500 people. They pack the whole weekend with just great events and great people, and it was just a lot of fun to go there and hang out. I had an amazing time. Now, that includes with me missing out on the fact that I could have just shown up to the Speakeasy social Thursday night. They have a 1920s themed speakeasy social for everyone to show up in costume if they want, hang out, relax, have some drinks, have some food, and kind of an opening ceremony for the convention. It's held at a little resort uh, in Michigan, and I got to tell you, the place is beautiful. It's surrounded by lakes and a golf course, and you never need to leave. There's several restaurants and food on site, and it's one of these conventions that I love going to. Usually because it's all inclusive, right? I mean, not all inclusive in the sense that, hey, I'm going to have a bunch of meals provided for, but you go in, you stay on the resort, all of the activities happen on the resort, and then you leave. And they had a ton of gaming. Now, I didn't play in any games, still recovering, didn't feel like playing in games was something I wanted to do. But I know that Dreamweaver in on the or Dreamshaper on our iconic Discord, he was out there with us, and he played in a ton of games. He got to play in, I think he got to play in a RuneQuest game. He got to play in a couple of Pendragon games to give it a shot. And that was actually the big draw this year, is that at Chaosium Con they had pre-release copies of the new edition of Pendragon, the Grey Knight, the Gloranthan source book, and the Lunar Way book from the Cults of RuneQuest. And the dealer room is small. It's not like Gamehole Con where there's dozens of vendors. There were maybe 6. Chaosium being the largest one, you're able to grab everything from Chaosium that you wanted. I actually got my copy of 7th Sea Katai, which was cool. I wasn't expecting to pick that up at the con, and they were nice enough to give me my Kickstarter reward kind of then and there. Sandy Peterson Games was there, which makes a ton of sense if you think about it, as was the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. And it was great because I know Sandy and I know Andrew from the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. And a couple of other smaller vendors, Dice and some solo RPGs. Our friends at Pinebox Entertainment were there demoing their 7th Sea card game, The City of Five Sails, which I've got to play multiple times, and it's a game that I thoroughly enjoy. I was there for panels, really. Well, actually, I was there for a specific reason, which we'll get to at the end, but I show up for the panels. Sandy Peterson's audience fed create a Call of Cthulhu scenario. The auction, Evan, when you watch this, auctioneer number 6 became auctioneer number 8 this year. And it's just fun to go to the auction and see all of the cool pieces of Chaosium memorabilia that they pull out of the archive because they have extra copies. Now, there are several people who show up there with a massive budget and a spreadsheet of items they are missing. That does not mean that you won't get something cool. Tinker Hellraiser walked away with a box set of the Dreamlands. Now, She missed getting Sandy Peterson to sign it, but she did get Tom Sullivan. Tom Sullivan was there, so there was a little artist row, and the two best ones, in my opinion, for my own personal enjoyment. Katrin was there. She does all of the new RuneQuest art, and so picked up some prints for the studio and friends. Very excited about those coming in. I'll show them off. In fact, we may be able to show them off on our Instagram earlier than I will actually have the boxes here. And then Tom Sullivan was there. Tom Sullivan did a lot of the early first edition Call of Cthulhu color plates. And incidentally was also the special effects guy on the Evil Dead movies with Sam Raimi. And so I got to stand there and talk with him about some of his favorite memories of working on Evil Dead. He still carries around with him the like 1/4 scale like prop of the Necronomicon with all of his hand drawing in there that they used then to make the larger prop. Yes, Tom Sullivan did sign the cover of her box set, which is really cool. We attended Sandy Peterson, who I'm sure you all know did a horror movies you may never have heard of. He introduced me into an entire new genre of movie that I had never heard of called a giallo, which is sort of a twist on the slasher film, but you're not rooting for the slasher. The slasher is very clearly evil and moving through the movie. And so I may check out one or two of those, let you guys know what I think. But for me, hanging out with the people was the best part. I got to hang out with Tink and Dream Shaper, which was a lot of fun. We actually went into Ann Arbor one day and did some book hounding. I think we went to 3 used bookstores and a really cool comics and games store and tried several coffee shops. Thanks for tagging along with us. And then, I got to hang out with Rick Meintz, who is a great guy. I got to meet up with a couple of the Palladium guys. They showed up. I got to meet Kevin Simbita in person. Like, I've met him before at conventions, but this I actually got to spend like about 2 hours hanging out and chatting with him and Sean Roberson from Palladium, which was a ton of fun. They are right there, just down the road from Chaosium. So it was kind of cool to see them and meet up with them. And then in the end, it was the Sunday we wrapped up and why I was there. I have had the distinct honor and privilege of being able to go through some archived footage. Rick, back in I think 2018, recorded about 7-ish hours of interviews with Greg Stafford and was planning to do it every year, and sadly Greg died before they could do a second round of interviews. And I was able to view all of these interviews and cut them down. They wanted about an hour, so I got to share some of my favorite stories that Greg shared, like how the 3rd edition of Pendragon was really inspired by Vampire. The idea that they had captured America's shadow self, that Greg really wanted to focus on the virtue and the beauty side of things, which I think is something I can really get behind here on the Iconic Production channel. The fact that Greg was looking at all of the sales and revenue that the Satanic Panic was actually generating for D&D, so he would send Call of Cthulhu boxes to televangelists in hopes that they too would decry and revile Call of Cthulhu, and that Chaosium could get a little bit of that Satanic Panic money, which sadly no one ever took him up on. But I love the mental image of Greg writing, like Mother Against Dungeons and Dragons style letters about Call of Cthulhu with the box set, sending them into televangelists. Yeah, exactly. No news is bad news, John. And yeah, so it was really cool to meet up with Sean and Kevin. I'm a huge fan of Palladium books, have been for decades, including Palladium Fantasy, Nightbane, Beyond the Supernatural, Heroes Unlimited, Rifts, and obviously, huge fan of Savage Rifts, which Sean was a big part of, starting, I think, with book 4 and going on. So it was just a great time to hang out. And so here's the thing. Chaosium Con actually costs about the same as North Texas RPG Con, or Chupacabra Con, or Gen Con, actually. I think Chaosium Con was only about $20 or $40 cheaper than Gen Con. And it's 4 days. But it's a very personal con. You're not going to go there to get a bevy of books to, bring home. Although I did. But it's not like walking Gen Con or walking Gamehole Con, where all of these different vendors are there. The vendors that are there are very focused. But what's great about Chaosium Con is the people that you played in one game with are the people that you can go hang out and have dinner with, who are going to be in your next game or running your next game. They even have a Bold Home, or Home of the Bold freeform LARP, an 8-hour LARP that Ludo, good friend of the show, was in. Hopefully, Ludo, I hope that you won. You still haven't told me if you won or not. So that's my debrief of Chaosium Con. Why would you want to go? Well, if you're a fan of RuneQuest or Call of Cthulhu, this is the con for you. It's also great because it's such a small and personal con. You actually get to meet and know people. At Gen Con, you may meet a group of people and be like, those guys were awesome. I will never see them again, because that is 6 of us out of 100,000 people. But 6 of you out of 400 or 500, chances are you're going to get to meet up for dinner, go out and go book hounding, sit in a panel together, or go play something new that you bought from Chaosium's booth. So, I plan on going next year. If I know at least 3 members of the Iconic crew are going to be there as well. Evan is hopefully going to be there next year, as well as Tink, and I hope Dream Shaper as well. It is a cool, Urban Decay is a cool game. And yeah, BRP was also kind of a star of the show this year. So, what's new for Iconic? Well, we're going to get into some how I prep and plan games, how I set them up, do some campaign clinics kind of going forward on that. I've got some reviews coming up from Chaosium Con, Pendragon, and new books from Glorantha. We're going to be back in the studio this weekend recording the next bits of the Iconic podcast. So, knock on wood that nothing happens, but hopefully in May, we're going to start seeing some new Iconic podcasts rolling out. And then according to the Mythic Stars aligning, Evan and I will be back doing Exploring Glorantha next month, back in the saddle doing starting our look at the second age of Glorantha as we look forward at our temporal look of Dragon Pass. Yes, Vendom is coming out. It does use the D100, and Vendom and Crucible will be my examples for when we talk about game prep and game planning. So, a little easy intro into the week for me. We'll be back on Thursday with a look at beginning your prepping for your first game of, well, let's call it Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds or Vendom, one of the two. And we'll be back on Thursday when we talk about that. So thanks everybody for joining me here at the start of the week. To John Doom and Oz and Tink and Mark and Padre, always good to see you. To everybody who watches on YouTube, thank you for looking at and leaving comments. I appreciate that. And I will see you all on Thursday. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I'm JM. This has been Behind the Screen. I will see you all later. Till then, have a good one.